You open your eyes, and before your feet even touch the floor, you are already late. You haven't looked at your phone yet. You haven't checked the time, but you can feel it. A tightness in your chest. A low-grade, suffocating panic. The phantom ticking of a clock that follows you everywhere. You rush through your morning coffee. You rush through your commute. You rush through your conversations, nodding along while your mind is already 10 steps ahead. You are sprinting toward a future that never actually arrives. And when you finally lie down at night, exhausted, staring at the ceiling, the noise begins. The mental ledger of everything you didn't accomplish today. The creeping, terrifying suspicion that you are falling behind your peers, behind your potential, behind the timeline you created for your own life. You feel like you are running out of time, and no matter how fast you run, the finish line keeps moving further away. You are infected with the disease of urgency. This is core wisdom, and today we're going deeper. If you know what it's like to fight this phantom clock, to feel the weight of time slipping through your fingers, you are in the right place. Subscribe to join us on the journey inward. We build the fortress together. But it gets worse, because society applauds your sickness. They call it ambition. They call it the grind. They tell you that sleep is the cousin of death. They demand that every waking second must be monetized, optimized, and leveraged. So you pack your schedule. You fill every empty space with a podcast, a video, a task, a distraction. You wear your exhaustion like a badge of honor. You brag about how little you sleep. You complain about how busy you are, but secretly you are terrified of an empty calendar. Look closer. Be honest with yourself. Are you actually moving forward? Or are you just spinning your wheels to avoid standing still? Motion is not progress. Business is not purpose. You have constructed a prison out of your own routines. You treat the present moment not as a place to live, but as an obstacle to survive. It is merely a waiting room you have to endure to get to the next thing, and the next, until one day you run out of next things. 2,000 years ago, someone understood this perfectly. In the heart of the Roman Empire, a man watched the wealthiest, most powerful people on earth destroy themselves. His name was Seneca. He was a philosopher, a statesman, and an observer of human madness. He walked through the marble streets of Rome and saw a society completely disconnected from reality. He watched senators run themselves into the ground, chasing political promotions they didn't even want. He watched merchants risk the ocean storms over and over again to build fortunes they were too anxious to enjoy. He watched old men weep on their deathbeds because they realized their lives were over. And they hadn't even started living yet. They had achieved everything, but possessed nothing. And Seneca wrote a diagnosis that cuts through 2 millennia of human history like a blade. We are not given a short life. We make it short. We are not ill-supplied, but wasteful of it. You think your problem is that you lack time. It is not. Your problem is that you are terrified of the silence. When you stop moving, when the schedule is empty, the noise fades. And in that quiet space, you are forced to face yourself. You are forced to ask if the mountain you are climbing is even the right one. That is a terrifying question. So you keep running. You invent artificial emergencies. You reply to emails in seconds. You manufacture stress because the stress feels like importance. If you are stressed, you must matter. If you are busy, you must be valuable. It is a lie. It is the architecture of self-deception. You are bleeding your most precious resource into the sand. You give your days away to people who do not care about you. You sacrifice your evenings to anxieties that will not matter a year from now. Think about how you protect your money. You use passwords, locks, and bank accounts. You negotiate your salary down to the dollar. You guard your physical possessions with absolute vigilance. But you let anyone and anything steal your time. You hand over hours of your life to a glowing screen without a second thought. You give entire afternoons to anger over an argument that means nothing. You let the opinions of strangers live rent-free in your mind, burning up the hours you will never, ever get back. You are fiercely protective of your property, yet you freely distribute your life. You are generous with the one thing you can never earn more of. And this raises a question that philosophers have argued about for centuries. If you are not in control of your time, who is actually living your life? You are an actor in a play, written by someone else, rushing through the scenes, waiting for the curtain to fall. You are practicing death while you are still alive. But here is what nobody tells you. The phantom clock is an illusion. The feeling of being behind is a ghost. And the cure for this disease was forged centuries ago. Seneca observed that the people who complain the most about life being short are the ones who are in the biggest hurry to get through it. They are always waiting for something. They wait for the weekend. They wait for the promotion. They wait for retirement. They live in a state of permanent postponement. Seneca watched the richest men in Rome postpone their actual lives. They promised themselves they would finally rest when they turned 50. They would finally study philosophy, travel, and spend time with their families when their political careers were secure. Seneca looked at this madness and asked a brutal question. Who guaranteed you tomorrow? What makes you think the universe will honor your schedule? You live as if you are destined to live forever. You forget your own fragility. You squander the present moment because you believe there is an endless supply of them waiting in the future. But the future is not a promise. It is an imagination. The only thing you actually possess, the only thing you have ever possessed, is right now. Let that sink in. The present second is your only empire, and you are letting it be invaded by ghosts. You think this feeling of urgency is pushing you forward. It is not. It is paralyzing you. You are so obsessed with the finish line that you have completely dissociated from the race. Seneca told a story about a wealthy Roman who was so busy, so managed by his schedule and his servants, that when he was lifted out of his bath, he literally asked, "Am I sitting down yet?" He had become so disconnected from his own present moment that he didn't even know what his physical body was doing unless someone told him. You hear that and you laugh. But look closer. Are you any different? You eat your lunch without tasting the food, your eyes glued to a glowing screen. You walk through your neighborhood without seeing the sky, your mind rehearsing an argument for tomorrow's meeting. You spend time with your family, but your brain is secretly checking emails under the table. You are a ghost haunting your own life. And this is where everything changes. Because the Stoics did not just diagnose the disease. They provided the antidote. And it begins with a radical shift in how you view the hourglass. Imagine an hourglass sitting on your desk. You watch the sand falling. Most people look at the sand in the top half. They calculate how much is left. They obsess over how fast it is draining. They panic as the pile shrinks. This is your time anxiety. This is the phantom clock. You are staring at the top of the hourglass, paralyzed by the fear that it is emptying. But the Stoic does not look at the top. The Stoic looks at the neck, the exact microscopic point where the sand passes from the future into the past, because that tiny funnel is the present moment. It is the only place where you have any actual power. You cannot control how much sand is in the top. You cannot retrieve the sand that has already fallen to the bottom. You can only control the single grain that is falling right now. To cure the disease of urgency, you must stop looking at the top of the hourglass. You must pull your attention back to the neck, violently if necessary. How do you do this? By becoming ruthless, by treating your attention as a weapon. Right now, your attention is cheap. You give it to anyone who asks. A notification pings and you look. A stranger posts an opinion and you get angry. A colleague creates an artificial emergency and you absorb their panic. You are a king who has left the drawbridge down and the gates of the fortress wide open. Every stray thought and petty demand marches right in and sits on your throne. Close the gates. Stop agreeing to things you hate just to please people you do not respect. Stop arguing with shadows in your head while you are driving to work. Stop projecting your mind 5 years into the future to worry about problems that do not even exist yet. Seneca wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. The urgency you feel is not real. The deadline you are panicking about, it is a human invention. The timeline you think you are falling behind, it is a social fiction. You are holding a whip and striking your own back, wondering why you are bleeding. Drop the whip. It is time to audit your life. Be honest with yourself. Where did your energy go today? Did you spend it on your own soul, or did you rent it out to the highest bidder of your anxiety? You say you have no time to build the life you want, but you have time to scroll for 2 hours in bed. You say you are too exhausted to pursue your purpose, but you have the energy to dwell on a past conversation until 2 in the morning. The problem is not capacity. The problem is allocation. You are not running out of time. You are misusing it. And once you see this, you cannot unsee it. The phantom clock begins to lose its power. The ticking starts to fade. Because you realize that being behind in life is a geographical impossibility. You can only be exactly where you are. The present moment is not a stepping stone. It is the entire destination. Every time you rush through a task just to get to the next one, you are wishing away your own life. You are actively asking the universe to accelerate your path to the grave. Stop rushing. There is nowhere to arrive. You have spent your entire life operating under a covert contract with the future. You believed that if you sacrificed the present, the future would eventually pay you back with peace. You told yourself, once I get this job, I will relax. Once I make this money, I will breathe. Once I reach this milestone, the urgency will stop. But the future is a bankrupt debtor. It will never pay you. The peace you are looking for can only be extracted from the second you are living right now. Every time you postpone your life for a later date, you are practicing death. You are treating your existence as a rehearsal, but there is no actual performance. This is it. The curtain is already up. And this brings us to the hardest truth of all. The timeline you are mourning, the milestones you missed, the finish line you are sprinting toward. They were never real. Did you waste your 20s chasing the wrong dream? Good. You finally understand the absolute value of a decade. Are you behind where you thought you would be at this age? Good. The illusion of the timeline has shattered, and now you can actually begin. Did you fail to achieve the goal you set for yourself? Good. You just bought your freedom from a schedule written by your own ego. Are you starting over when everyone else seems to be finishing? Good. The herd is rushing blindly toward a cliff, and you have just learned how to walk away. Do not fear the delay. Do not mourn the lost years. Seneca observed a tragic irony in the men of Rome. A man spends his time furiously gathering wealth and status, only to realize he has not lived. He is like a sailor caught in a violent storm before even leaving the harbor. He was tossed about by the wind. He was battered by the waves. He fought for his life. But he never actually sailed. You have been fighting the storm in the harbor. You are finally ready to sail. When you stop treating time as a countdown, it ceases to be a weapon used against you. It becomes a forge. You stop trying to cram 100 meaningless tasks into a single day. Instead, you pour the full, terrifying weight of your attention into one single action. You speak to your family, and you actually see them. You do your work, and you actually craft it. You endure your pain, and you actually feel it, letting it carve you into something fundamentally stronger. This is how you extend your life. You do not need more years. You need more depth. The ancients knew a secret about human perception. Time expands when you look at it closely, and it shrinks when you look past it. A single day lived with total, unflinching presence is worth a decade of frantic, anxious motion. The man who masters his attention lives 1,000 lifetimes because he actually experiences the one he was given. The urgency is a lie. The rush is a coward's escape from the silence. Stand your ground. Stop negotiating with the phantom clock. So tonight, when you lie in bed, when the room goes dark and the silence settles in, the old habit will try to return. The mental ledger will open. The phantom clock will try to tick. The fear of being left behind will whisper in the dark, telling you that you did not do enough today. Let it whisper. Let the clock tick. But this time, you do not run. You picture the hourglass. You ignore the empty space at the top. You ignore the wasted sand at the bottom. You look only at the neck, the single grain of sand passing through. You feel your breathing. You feel the weight of your own body. You remind yourself, I am not late. I am exactly here. There is no timeline. There is no finish line. There is only this moment, and I am its absolute sovereign. The phantom clock shatters. The noise dissolves. The night is no longer a reminder of what you haven't done. It is the fortress where you rest. Sleep well. The timeline is dead. Your life has finally begun.